Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and when it comes to investing, there's only two rules, okay? Rule number one is don't lose money. Rule number two is don't forget rule number one. But that's very hard to do unless you know the right game to actually play, and that's what I'm going to tell you to do in this video. And by the way, all this advice, all these 10 pieces of nuggets that I basically have to give you guys in this video, this all comes from information I've learned over the years of investing, but also from a lot of people that are a lot smarter than I am when it comes to investing and basically made millions and billions of dollars. So this advice is solid. I hope it actually helps you. Do me a favor and smash the like button if you like videos like these, and let's get right into it. Now, the very first thing, guys, is going to be this. This information is not ordered, for example, from A to Z. It's more like just information that I have to give you. So number one is going to be define your investing goal and be realistic. When I first started investing, my goal was defined, but in reality, it wasn't really realistic, okay? And it's not like it's not realistic for me to accomplish it, but it just doesn't make sense for me to actually try to accomplish it. And here's why. I wanted to make $10,000 a month from investing in the stock market. And I wanted to do it passively without actually doing a bunch of work. Now, when I asked myself why, and I was basically willing to spend 40 years actually getting to this goal, my answer wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. It was basically, I want to have a lot of money so I can buy a lot of things that I basically don't need. A bigger house, a nicer car, and all this other stuff that I really don't need that much, okay? So then I redefined my goals, and my goal was, hey, I want to put my money to work to make me more money without taking on a lot of risks. Yes, I want to invest in the stock market, but I don't want to spend hours every single day doing research. And the overall goal with passive income and how much money I actually want, I just want enough money to cover my cost of living plus some. So that was basically it. So I went from 10K to I might only need, for example, like $2,000 a month. Now that's a big difference. Now, number two is, guys, you're going to have to define what the best investment class for you is actually going to be, your best asset class as a whole. Now, when I spoke about I don't want to do a lot of work, I want to make it passive, I can be patient and do it over time. For me, the best investment was not doing what I was doing, which is basically picking stocks or having too much diversification. It was basically kind of coming on to just one whole idea. And to me, that is just index funds as a whole. So for me, index funds as an asset class do the exact job I wanted to do. I don't take on that much risk. It is passive and it has a good track record over time because I'm just following the overall market. Now, if you're curious, what index fund do I put my money into? It's just into the S&P 500. Now, number three, guys, is going to be you want to make recurrent investments or automatic investments. Why exactly? You know why when you're a W-2 employee, you always pay your taxes on time? It's because the taxes are taken out of your check before you get your check. Well, how can you invest all the time and not worry about not having the money? Well, the first thing you do when you get paid is you invest. Now, here's my advice. People always want to start investing 20% or 30% or even sometimes even half their incomes. And sometimes they can do that, but a lot of the times it's not sustainable. The odds are it's not going to be sustainable. So I always recommend start investing with at least a minimum of 10%. And I recommend everyone start investing with just 10%, although you can do more. And here's why. You can always go up from 10%, but then to be at 50%, then have to come back down and all this other stuff, you have a lot of inconsistencies, okay? So it's better just to go slow and steady when it comes to your investments, but make them automatic. The minute you get paid, send it over. Or have them take the money automatically from your check and have it be invested. That's the best advice. That way, you always invest first. That's the idea. Now, number four, guys, is going to be organize your finances before investing. Now, there are two things you have to do to organize your finances here, okay? Number one is have a budget. And number two is do some cleanup and lay a foundation. Let me explain this with this example, which today we don't really use, but it's still an important example. Let's say you want to build a house. Before you start worrying about building a house, you need to have a budget because you need to know exactly how much money this whole thing is actually going to take. If you don't know, then then you're kind of going in blind. And if you thought, hey, I have $100,000, I think this is enough. You start off and now it's like, hey, it's gonna be 1 million. You're like, what? I did not know that. I did not know that. That's why you want to be organized with a budget. Now, the second thing you want to do is clean up, right? So if you buy a piece of land and it has a whole bunch of bush and it's time for you to start laying down the foundation, you don't lay the foundation on a bunch of bush and trees, right? You need to clean things up. Now, that cleanup is going to be cleaning up your debt, your consumer debt, all the money you owe, except the mortgage, because that takes too much time to actually get done. But sometimes it might make sense to sell the house because it's too expensive and you finally figure that out. If you have car loans, if you have consumer debt, like credit cards and like student loans and all this other stuff, pay them things off because that's how you clean up and you get ready to lay the foundation for your investing and for your other goals in a way. Now, what exactly is a foundation? It's called an emergency account. So it looks like budget. So you can basically pay off your debt. That's called a cleanup. And then you can worry about the foundation. And that's basically called building up yourself a good solid emergency fund. So when things get shaky, you're solid and you don't end up like those people that have to sell their investments all the time because they always have some problem occurring and they get into a mess. Now, number 6 is going to be ready to take advantage of bear markets. The best time to invest, as they say, is when there is blood in the streets, okay? That basically means there is a bear market. The stock market is down. Now, here's why. The stock market has a track record. Track record shows that basically it recovers from every single downfall. However, that does not make it instinctually easy to go ahead and invest when everyone is complaining and losing money. When people had 100K and now they only have 50K, that's hard to put even more money into something that seems to be losing value, all right? So in theory, it sounds easy. In practice, it takes you knowing exactly what you're doing. So what I like to do is I don't basically store up money and don't invest and wait for something to happen to basically do it. I don't do that. I do, for example, or I did because now I kind of stopped investing because I kind of have enough money invested. So I'm doing like working on another project, which is basically like buying some real estate and so on. But for the most part, I would just basically invest normally, recurrently, automatically in the stock market. And I would have some money on the side, obviously, because I'm basically saving up for something. And then if the market does go down, if there is blood in the streets, then I'm gonna go ahead and take advantage. I made a small fortune, and when I say small, I mean small, okay? But by investing during the pandemic, when things crashed by 20-30%, I took advantage and I put more money into it, and I made more money when things recovered. But remember, a recovery is not, it always happens. That's what the history shows, but it doesn't always happen when you think it's gonna happen. Market can go down today by 20-30%, be recovered tomorrow. But it can also go down today and be recovered in 10-20 years. All right, so you have to know that. So the money that you're investing is not going to be the money for the house you want to buy, the college you want to go to, or whatever it is, okay? It's money that you have set aside for investing, and you're going to take an opportunity and basically put more money into it. That's the idea. Now, number 7, guys, is going to be get ready when time changes and you need to change, for example, your strategy. Now, I kind of make it sound like, hey, the stock market always recovers, so why would you ever need to change strategies? The answer is because age is a factor. The way you invest when you're in your 20s and 40s is different how you're going to invest when you are in your 60s and 70s. Well, depending on the work you've done so far. But let's say, for example, you're like 60 years old and you've amassed, for example, $1 million. And this $1 million can basically make you in the stock market, let's say, for example, $80,000 a year. It can make you in a bond $40,000 a year. It can make you in real estate about $60,000 a year. And I tell you, which one do you prefer? You might say, Tommy, of course, I'm going to go with the stock market. It makes me 80K, so much more money. The problem is, okay, stock market can basically fluctuate. And when you have a recession, they can last a long time. So when time is no longer on your side, it'll always be in the time of the stock market because we're going to be here for a while with this thing, okay? But if you're already 60 years old and a recovery can take 10 to 20 years to actually, for example, recover, right? The market recover. But it can take a lot shorter time. But the truth is, we don't really know how long it takes to recover, okay? These things can take a lot of time or no time at all. So if all I need to live is $40,000 a year, and a bond offers me that at basically almost risk-free money, and I know I'm going to get that money every single year, then I'd rather go with that. If I know I can get the money from rents from real estate, and I know tenants are always going to be paying me, I can always get a new tenant, and I can always have real estate, for example, that goes up in value, the answer is I would probably go with real estate. But overall, you have to be very careful thinking that more money is always better, because you have to switch around because your risk is different. And let's say, for example, you're 60, market takes 10 years to recover, okay? And now you have 7 years left according to life insurance policies, okay? So you want to be very careful. As you approach older and older age, or as you approach retirement, if you're 30 and you want to retire today, well, you can't be investing the same way when you're looking for growth, if you know what I mean, okay? You have to consider things, okay? That's the whole idea. Now, number 8 is going to be always have insurance. And insurance is not going to be more money. Insurance is not going to be more investments. Insurance not even going to be real insurance, okay? But insurance, when it comes to the stock market and your investments, is going to be needing less money. The less money you need, and you got to understand something, okay? Because I had a rough time understanding this. Spending more money does not cause more happiness or more fulfillment. Usually all those things are temporary. And to make more money, it's not free. It costs you time and you can't get time back. So what do I mean when I say you need to have insurance, you need to have less needs in a way, and like lower your cost of living? Well, let's say, for example, you make $4,000 a month and you spend $4,000, and your goal is to get $4,000 in passive income. You finally get that. If the market crashes by 50%, now you're only making $2,000. Now you got to find a way to make another $2,000 to replace that income you no longer have, right? See what I'm saying here? But if you make $4,000 and you only spend $2,000 because you figured, hey, I just basically lower my cost of living, I live in fulfillment, I'm pretty happy with what I have, I don't need a faster car, my car is fine, I don't need a bigger house, this house is fine, everything's good, I get to do things I want in a way, and that makes you happy, and you get maximum fulfillment from it, and the market goes down by 50%, well, or even for example goes down by, like, let's say you went from making $4,000 in the market to now you're only making $1,000, but you only need to make like $2,000 a month, right? So now you need to find like $1,000. That's it, right? It's a lot more different than you need to find $2,000 or $3,000. The more money you need, well, the more money you're gonna need to have in the stock market, all right? And the more money you need, the higher the risk basically is when things don't work out your way. So, and it takes more time. And time is something that's so valuable that you really have to consider the trades you're making to have a nicer car or to have a nicer house and all those things. And often they're not really worth the trade. Now, number 9, guys, is going to be the best time is now. If something is worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. I just learned this like 2 days ago when I was going on a walk and listening to Joel Salatin, okay? And it's so true. When I first started investing, I made some mistakes. I was doing individual stocks, then I was doing too much diversification, and then I was basically trying to maximize things and taking on debt and doing this and stuff. But as you keep learning and you keep growing and approaching, for example, just like knowledge overall, you kind of start to consider things. But if I had never gotten started, I would have never gotten to this point. Now, although I recommend highly that if you're interested in passive income, you don't want to do a lot of research, I recommend index funds for sure. Even target date funds by Vanguard. Those are the ones that are basically custom to your age and when you want to retire and so on, and they kind of switch around when you get to that age. Although I recommend that, I really just recommend that you just get started. Now, you really want to make sure that as you try things out, the result of failure is not going to be complete wipeout, because that can get really depressing. But if the result is you get your knee scratched, you get your elbow scratched, you might even get a bust lip, basically saying like, instead of like you're putting in $10,000 in something where the risk is you lose everything, well, better be that your risk is you lose $1,000 or $2,000, and you can just basically, keep starting and going back to what you were, okay? But be very careful when you're risking everything you have just because it's not a lot of money, because it still took you time. I always used to say that. People told me that all the time. Well, I just have $1,000. Doesn't matter if I lose it tomorrow. I can just make more. No, it does matter. It does matter. Be very careful with that. Now, the last thing on my list is number 10 is you want to have zero loyalty when it comes to companies. Okay, my favorite companies are Vanguard, Fidelity, and Schwab's. The one I utilize right now is Vanguard. Why? Vanguard has great customer service. They manage a lot of assets. They have a great reputation. They've been around for a very long time. They have very low fees. Now, those are my reasons for having Vanguard. Now, whenever you ask an old person, why do you bank with this bank? They tell you, I've been here for a long time. We're friends. Banks are not your friends. Although the lady is nice at the counter and asks you about your kids or your grandkids, they're not your friend, okay? Banks just basically it's a business. So if tomorrow Vanguard says, we're done with this whole low cost investing thing, we're gonna charge you 2% or 1%, the answer is, I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere else. That's the idea. You really want to look out for those things. You don't want to have blind loyalty towards a company. But if a company is doing a great job and they're doing amazing, then why would you want to switch? Okay, that's the idea. But at the end of the day, really consider whenever someone is charging you 1 or 2% as a maintenance fee or as a management fee for your investments, and they're like, we're going to make you more money and all this stuff. Remember, if all you make from the market is 8%, and they take 2%, and and inflation takes 3%, and then taxes take 1%, what are you left with? 2%, right? And they make 2%. They get half your stuff, half your profits. You see what I'm saying? Or a third of your profits. You don't want that. So you want to really consider that towards the end of the road. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you like this video. I hope you learned something. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. If you want more content like this, let me know in the comments down below, and peace.